Bruno Mars has just given Australian fans another major reason to get excited about the romantic tour, and this time it was not from a concert stage. It came from an exclusive television interview that gave viewers a much more personal look at the superstar behind one of the biggest tours in the world. Bruno Mars sat down for an exclusive broadcast interview with Today, Australia's longest-running morning breakfast television program on Channel 9, as excitement continues building for his highly anticipated Australian shows in 2027. The conversation, conducted by journalist and host Lily Greer, went far beyond the usual questions about touring and performing. Bruno opened up about his upcoming Australian tour dates, the challenge of maintaining his energy night after night, the inspiration behind the romantic tour, his excitement about returning to Australia, and perhaps most interestingly, the personal side of his identity as a self-described hopeless romantic. And there was one detail about the timing of his Australian return that immediately made the conversation even more intriguing. Valentine's Day. With Bruno Mars preparing to bring the romantic tour to Australia in 2027, the atmosphere surrounding the shows already feels perfectly aligned with the image that has followed him throughout his career. Romance, love, music, performance, and nostalgia have always been deeply connected to Bruno Mars, and now, his return to Australia appears to be taking place during a period that could hardly be more fitting for an artist known for turning romantic themes into global pop anthems. Before we get deeper into what Bruno revealed, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications if you want the latest Bruno Mars news, the romantic tour updates, concert developments, interviews, performances, and everything surrounding his massive 2027 Australia return. And if you are excited to see Bruno Mars back in Australia, let us know in the comments which song you hope he performs when the romantic tour finally reaches the country. The interview with Lily Greer offered something particularly valuable because Bruno was not simply discussing a set list or announcing another concert. He was talking about himself. He was talking about what it takes to remain physically and emotionally committed to a massive world tour, what motivates him to keep performing at such a high level, and what shaped the person who eventually became one of the most recognizable entertainers in modern music. That distinction matters. Bruno Mars is known for extraordinary live performances. His shows are built around precision, choreography, musicianship, vocals, fashion, stage production, audience interaction, and an almost relentless level of energy. But maintaining that kind of performance night after night is not easy. A stadium audience may see 2 hours of entertainment. Bruno sees preparation. He sees rehearsals. He sees travel. He sees recovery. He sees the responsibility of walking onto a stage thousands of miles away from home and delivering the same level of performance expected from an artist whose name has become synonymous with live entertainment. And that was one of the fascinating areas explored during his conversation with Lily Greer. The question of energy is especially relevant to the romantic tour because Bruno's performances demand far more than simply standing behind a microphone. He sings. He dances. He plays instruments. He interacts with the audience. He moves across the stage. He performs with a live band. He changes the atmosphere from one song to the next. And somehow, he has to make the entire experience feel spontaneous, even though a stadium production of this scale requires an enormous amount of planning. That balance between preparation and spontaneity has become one of the defining characteristics of Bruno Mars as a performer. From the outside, it can look effortless. But behind that effortless appearance is an artist who understands exactly what his audience expects when the lights go down and the music begins. And this is where the conversation became even more interesting, because Bruno did not simply discuss how he survives the physical demands of touring. He also touched on why he continues to approach performance with such intensity. For Bruno, performing has never appeared to be just another job. It is part of his identity. It is part of the culture he grew up around. And that connection between his upbringing and his personality became one of the most revealing elements of the interview. The phrase hopeless romantic has often been associated with Bruno Mars because so much of his music revolves around love, relationships, attraction, heartbreak, devotion, and the excitement of falling for someone. From Just the Way You Are to Grenade, from When I Was Your Man to Versace on the Floor, and from That's What I Like to many of his later romantic performances. Bruno has repeatedly transformed relationship stories into songs that connect with audiences around the world. But where does that romantic side actually come from? That was one of the questions that made this interview different. Rather than simply discussing his biggest hits, Bruno reflected on how his upbringing influenced his tendency to embrace romance and emotion. And suddenly, the superstar image became a little more human. Because behind the Grammy Awards, the sold-out stadiums, the millions of streams, the global chart success, and the spectacular stage shows is someone whose relationship with music was shaped long before he became Bruno Mars. His upbringing exposed him to different musical influences and performance traditions, helping shape the entertainer audiences know today. That foundation matters when trying to understand why Bruno can move so naturally between genres. Pop, R&B, soul, funk, rock, reggae, doo-wop, classic ballads, modern production. His music has always carried a sense of nostalgia while remaining accessible to contemporary audiences. And the romantic tour appears to build on that philosophy. It is not simply about promoting one song. It is an experience built around Bruno Mars as a complete entertainer. That helps explain why anticipation for the Australian shows has continued to grow. Australia is not simply another destination on the tour calendar. For Bruno, returning to Australia represents another opportunity to reconnect with an audience that has embraced his music throughout his career. Australian fans have followed his evolution from the early days of his global breakthrough through multiple albums, major singles, award-winning performances, collaborations, and increasingly ambitious live productions. Now, the next chapter is the romantic tour, and the timing makes the story even more interesting, because these Australian performances are planned for 2027, meaning fans still have time to anticipate what Bruno will bring to the stage. But the excitement is already beginning. The Today interview gives audiences a glimpse into the mindset behind those future performances. And when Bruno talks about returning to Australia, there is a clear sense of enthusiasm. This is not simply an artist checking another country off a list. It is a return, a reunion with fans, a continuation of a global concert journey that has already become one of the defining chapters of his career. And then comes the Valentine's Day connection. That detail is almost too perfect for Bruno Mars. An artist whose catalog contains some of the most recognizable romantic songs of the modern era is preparing to perform in Australia around Valentine's Day. Think about the atmosphere: couples, friends, fans traveling from different cities, thousands of people singing romantic songs together inside a stadium. Bruno standing in the middle of it all, backed by a live band, surrounded by massive production, delivering songs that have become part of the soundtrack of people's relationships. It is the kind of setting that naturally fits the identity of the romantic tour. And this is where the title of the tour starts to feel less like branding and more like a statement about Bruno's artistic personality. The word romantic is not limited to love songs. Can describe nostalgia. Can describe the excitement of live music. It can describe the feeling of being young. It can describe the desire to make someone feel special. And Bruno Mars has spent much of his career turning those emotions into music. That is why his songs can work in completely different environments. A massive stadium, a wedding, a night out, a quiet moment alone, a celebration, a breakup, a Valentine's Day playlist. His music has a way of attaching itself to memories. And perhaps that is one reason his concerts have become such emotional experiences for fans. But there is another side to the romantic tour that cannot be ignored: the scale. This is not a small club tour. Bruno is performing in major venues and stadium environments, where thousands of people expect a performance that feels larger than life. That means every detail matters. The musicians, the choreography, the lighting, the wardrobe, the transitions, the production, the pacing, the audience interaction, and most importantly, Bruno himself. That is why his comments about sustaining energy are so relevant. When an artist performs at this level, Energy is not something that simply appears when the opening music starts. It has to be maintained. It has to be protected. It has to be rebuilt. And it has to be delivered consistently. For fans, the result is what matters. They want the Bruno Mars experience. They want the voice. They want the dancing. They want the musicianship. They want the charisma. They want the unforgettable moments that can only happen inside a live concert. And Bruno understands that. His approach to performance has always been built around giving the audience something they cannot experience by simply pressing play on a streaming service. A recording can be perfect. A concert has to be alive. It has to breathe. It has to react. It has to connect. And Bruno's greatest strength may be his ability to make enormous audiences feel like they are participating in something personal. That is particularly powerful in romantic songs. When thousands of people sing the same lyrics, the song stops belonging exclusively to the artist. It becomes part of the audience's memories. And that could be one of the biggest reasons why the Australian leg of the romantic tour is already attracting so much attention. But there is one more layer to the interview that deserves attention. Bruno's discussion about his upbringing provides context for everything that came afterward. The performer we see today did not suddenly appear when Just the Way You Are became a worldwide hit. The foundations were already there. The musical influences, the stage experience, the appreciation for classic entertainment, the understanding of rhythm, the confidence to perform, the ability to connect with an audience, the emotional instinct behind a love song. All of those elements were developing long before Bruno Mars became a global superstar. And when he describes himself as a hopeless romantic, it becomes easier to understand why that theme has remained so powerful throughout his catalog. It is not simply about writing a catchy chorus. It is about understanding the emotion behind the song, the excitement, the vulnerability, the confidence, the regret, the desire, the heartbreak, the fantasy, the celebration. That emotional range has helped Bruno Mars remain one of the most commercially successful and recognizable artists of his generation. And now, those qualities are being carried into a new era with the romantic tour. For Australian fans, the wait will be about more than seeing a famous singer. It will be about experiencing the full Bruno Mars show. The songs they grew up with, the newer material, the musicianship, the spectacle, the humor, the unexpected moments, and that unmistakable Bruno Mars energy. The Today interview therefore arrives at an important moment. The Australian shows are still ahead, but the promotional campaign is already creating momentum. And Bruno's appearance gives fans something they cannot get from a tour poster or concert announcement. They get to hear directly from the man preparing to return. They get to hear what excites him. They get to hear what motivates him. They get to understand a little more about the person behind the performer. And perhaps most importantly, they get another reminder that the romantic tour is not just about romance as a theme. It is about the emotional connection between Bruno Mars and his audience. That connection is what makes a concert feel special. It is what turns a song into a memory. It is what makes a tour feel like an event rather than simply another collection of dates. And when the lights eventually go down in Australia in 2027, that connection will be tested on the biggest possible stage. The crowd will already know the songs. They will already know the lyrics. They will already know the hits. But they will not know exactly what Bruno will do in that moment. That uncertainty is part of the magic of live music. And after hearing Bruno talk about the upcoming Australian shows, his energy, his inspirations, and the romantic influences that shaped him, there is an even stronger sense that the Australian chapter of the romantic tour could become one of the most memorable parts of the entire journey. Because the story is no longer simply about Bruno Mars returning to Australia. It is about why he is returning. It is about what he wants to give the audience. And it is about an artist whose entire career has been built around making people feel something. That is the real power behind the word romantic. It is not only about Valentine's Day. It is not only about couples. It is not only about love songs. It is about emotion. It is about memories. It is about music that stays with you long after the final note. And Bruno Mars has spent more than a decade proving that he understands exactly how powerful that feeling can be. So when the romantic tour finally arrives in Australia in 2027, fans will not just be watching another concert. They will be watching the next chapter of an extraordinary live era. A chapter shaped by years of experience, a lifetime of musical influences, an obsession with performance, and a personality that Bruno himself describes through one unforgettable idea: being a hopeless romantic. And perhaps that is why the Valentine's Day timing feels so fitting. Because if there is one artist who can turn a stadium full of people into one giant celebration of love, nostalgia, music, and entertainment, Bruno Mars has already shown that he knows exactly how to do it. The interview with Lily Greer on Today has now given Australian fans another piece of the puzzle. The tour is coming. The excitement is building. And Bruno Mars sounds ready to return. Now, the only question is what will happen when the first notes finally echo across an Australian stadium in 2027. If you are a Bruno Mars fan, this is only the beginning of the Australian countdown. Subscribe for more Bruno Mars news, the romantic tour updates, concert coverage, exclusive interview highlights, performance moments, and the latest developments as the 2027 Australia shows get closer. And tell us in the comments, which Bruno Mars song would you want to hear most during the romantic tour in Australia? Because if the tour is already being shaped by romance, nostalgia, energy, and the story behind the man himself, then Australia may be in for something much bigger than just another concert. It may be one of Bruno Mars' most romantic chapters yet. But the story surrounding Bruno Mars and Australia does not end with that interview. In fact, the conversation with Lily Greer may have opened the door to a much bigger story about what fans can expect when the romantic tour finally reaches the country in 2027. For years, Bruno Mars has built his reputation around one simple but incredibly difficult idea: make every performance feel like an event. That philosophy has followed him from intimate venues to some of the biggest stages in the world. And now Australia is preparing to experience another version of that evolution. The romantic tour represents a new chapter for Bruno Mars, but it also carries the weight of everything he has accomplished before it. His global hits have become cultural landmarks. His performances have become viral moments. His live band has become an essential part of his identity. And his ability to combine classic sounds with modern pop production has allowed him to remain relevant across different generations. That is why the Australian return carries so much anticipation. Fans are not simply waiting for a singer to arrive. They are waiting for an entertainer who has spent his entire career perfecting the art of the live show. And Bruno's comments about sustaining energy provide an important glimpse into just how demanding that responsibility can be. Imagine performing in front of tens of thousands of people, knowing that every movement is being watched, every note is being heard, and every moment can potentially become a viral clip online. There is nowhere to hide on a stadium stage. The audience can see everything. That makes preparation essential. But Bruno has always appeared to embrace that pressure. Rather than reducing the intensity of his performances, he has continued pushing himself to create shows that feel bigger, sharper, and more entertaining. That is part of the reason his concerts have become such a major attraction. People are not only coming for the songs, they are coming for the experience. And that experience becomes even more powerful when the artist has a personal connection with the material. Bruno's discussion about being a hopeless romantic therefore adds another dimension to the romantic tour. His romantic personality has been present throughout his songwriting. He has written songs about falling in love, losing love, wanting someone back, celebrating attraction, and trying to make another person feel special. But there is always another side to those stories. Even Bruno's most confident songs often contain vulnerability. That combination is one of the reasons his music has remained so relatable. One moment, he can deliver a song filled with swagger and confidence. The next moment, he can completely change the mood with a heartbreaking ballad. That emotional contrast is one of his greatest strengths. And it is exactly what makes a Bruno Mars concert so unpredictable from one moment to the next. The audience can be dancing one second and singing an emotional love song the next. That change in atmosphere is not accidental. It is part of the architecture of the show. Keeps people engaged, creates anticipation, and it gives the audience emotional peaks and valleys throughout the night. The romantic tour appears to embrace that same philosophy. The title itself promises a journey through different forms of romance, but Bruno's interpretation of romance has never been limited to one emotion. Sometimes romance is excitement. Sometimes it is nostalgia. Sometimes it is heartbreak. Sometimes it is humor. Sometimes it is simply the feeling of being with someone you care about while your favorite song is playing. And that broad definition allows Bruno to create a concert that can appeal to almost everyone. That is especially important in Australia, where his audience spans different age groups and generations. Some fans may remember discovering Bruno through his earliest major hits. Others may have connected with him through Silk Sonic. Some may have discovered his music through streaming platforms and viral videos. And a new generation may know him simply as one of the world's biggest performers. Yet all of those audiences can find something familiar in his catalog. That is the power of a diverse discography. And when those songs are brought together inside a massive live production, the result can become something much larger than a playlist. It becomes a shared memory. That is exactly what Australian fans will be waiting for. The opportunity to experience those songs in person. To hear thousands of people singing together. To see Bruno's musicians perform live. To watch the choreography unfold. To experience the lighting, staging, costumes, and production from inside the venue. And perhaps to witness an unexpected moment that was never part of the original plan. Because live concerts have one thing that recordings cannot reproduce: uncertainty. Every night is slightly different. Every crowd has a different energy. Every venue has its own atmosphere. And every performance creates the possibility of a moment that fans will remember for years. That is one reason Bruno's approach to touring remains so compelling. He understands that audiences want more than technical perfection. They want personality. They want connection. They want to feel that the artist is actually present with them. And Bruno has repeatedly demonstrated an ability to create that feeling even inside enormous venues. Now, as Australia prepares for 2027, the promotional conversation is beginning to shift. The question is no longer whether Bruno Mars is coming. The question is what kind of experience he is going to bring. And that is where the Today interview becomes particularly important. Instead of revealing every detail, Bruno's conversation creates anticipation. It gives fans insight without taking away the surprise. That balance is critical for a tour of this scale. Because if audiences know everything before they enter the venue, some of the magic disappears. But when they understand the artist's mindset while still having unanswered questions, curiosity grows. And there are plenty of unanswered questions surrounding the romantic tour. Which